Ethan's sharp words were like a knife stabbing into my heart. It hurt so badly that my heart almost broke. I do remember he said the same thing at a charity dinner a long time ago. The only difference was that he said that to defend me. That day, before the charity dinner started, an actress named Chelsea Evans bought off a makeup artist and asked her to ruin my dress. Coincidentally, the brand of my spare dress was accused of plagiarism on the same day. For female celebrities, the red carpet at charity dinners was a chance to gain more exposure and resources. If something went wrong with my dress, I would lose all the top fashion resources I had. I was in great panic, fearing that I might embarrass myself. However, Ethan somehow heard about this, and in less than half an hour, he showed up at my dressing room with an Uliana Serginko haute couture. That night, I was the most dazzling actress at the charity dinner. My outfit livened up the boring entertainment circle. People were talking about my dress and admiring my beauty. My fan base had also skyrocketed as a result. No way! I heard that Uliana Serginko would never lend their couture to a new actress. How on earth did Rosalind get it? According to insiders, she spent $400,000 on this haute couture. Is she the future of this shitty showbiz? God! I'm already in love with this beautiful and rich lady. What was more, someone even believed that I would be popular all over the world in 2023. Anyway, I made a splash on the red carpet and was reported by all the major media. I had also become the new fashion darling. Of course, Chelsea, who deliberately set me up, paid for what she did. Ethan used his connections and money to take all Chelsea had away from her. In just one day, Chelsea was blacklisted by the entire entertainment industry. Just as Emily Dickinson once wrote, "Had I not seen the sun, I could have borne the shade." Chelsea was a living example of that. She swallowed her pride and apologized to me to get her career back. Ethan was with me when Chelsea came to me. Chelsea begged, "I shouldn't have done this. Rosie, I was being mean and I hope you can forgive me. If I get blacklisted for this, my whole career will be over." Chelsea cried her eyes out, but Ethan just stared at her indifferently. He stared at Chelsea aggressively and said, "You should at least kneel when you apologize." I would never forget the shock and resentment in Chelsea's eyes. She pointed at me with her trembling fingers and said, "Even if I get blacklisted for this permanently, I'll never kneel to you, Rosalind. Instead, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you really think you will end up well with such a dangerous man? We'll see about that." I had to admit that Chelsea was right. In less than 6 months, what she said came true. Why didn't I believe her earlier? No, I did have doubts about that. I remembered clearly that after she left, I asked Ethan in a trembling voice, "Will you do the same thing to me in the future?" After hearing that, he just held me in his arms in the bed, slowly stroked my back with his slender fingers, and gently kissed me. Never. But now, would he still give me the same answer after what he did to me? I hated his guts. I even wished that I could tear him apart. How could there be such a cold-blooded and ruthless person in the world? After fooling me around, he even made me kneel and apologize. It was so disgusting. He made me sick. After he said this, even his buddies were shocked. Damn. Ethan, you have been with her for so long. Don't you have any feelings for her? Well, that's the Ethan I know. You're still a cool guy who doesn't give a damn about relationships. But do you have to make such a pretty girl kneel? I start to pity her, to be honest. And if you've really lost your interest in her, why not let me? Ethan said with cold eyes. Shut up. Carlson Smith, one of his buddies, stopped talking at once. I glared at Ethan at the impulse to kill him. He wanted to see me kneel, right? Fine. Unlike Chelsea, who got blacklisted, I could do anything to save my career. I clenched my fist and looked up at Ethan, asking, "Will you give my career back if I kneel?" Ethan put his strong arms around my waist and suddenly pulled me over and forced me to look him in the eye. Then he sneered and whispered in my ear, "You wish." 5. I wouldn't call myself smart, but I was no fool. Since Ethan refused to help me with public opinion, why would I kneel and beg him for mercy? I was not his bitch. So I stared at him indifferently and said, "I won't bother you anymore since we can't reach an agreement. Mr. Chandler, have fun with your buddies. We'll see." Then I left without looking back. While I was leaving, I could hear Carlson's voice. "Do you think that girl has changed, Ethan? You've really embarrassed her. But somehow, I feel she will get back at you." After leaving the bar, I wandered outside. But in fact, My mind had already been in a mess. There was always a huge gap between me and Ethan. He had always been an unapproachable man from a rich family, while I was just like a dog he'd been trampling on. So how should I take my revenge on him? I was so absorbed in my thought that I bumped into someone. Ouch! I rubbed my painful nose and looked up with tears in my eyes. Then I saw an extremely handsome and cold face. I looked at the man blankly. His face was as beautiful as a sculpture, and he seemed to be able to see through people with those clear eyes, which sent shivers down my spine. He was more charming than any celebrity in the entertainment industry, but for no reason. I looked at his face and felt him very familiar, so I took a deep breath and asked him boldly, "Have we met before, sir?" He gave me a faint smile and said, "I'm Ethan's uncle." My heart twitched abruptly. What a small world. Without saying anything, I clenched my fists, turned around, and left. But wait. Ethan's uncle. He was Adrien Chandler that Ethan used to mention a lot. All of a sudden, I remembered what Ethan had told me before. My uncle is the real heir of the Chandler family. I'm nothing compared to him. So this man was the future master of the Chandler family. After realizing this, I came to my senses immediately. The next second, I made a crazy decision. I was going to use Adrien to get my revenge on Ethan. Normally, no man could refuse a female celebrity who threw herself at him. So I put my arms around Adrien's waist and pretend I was still drunk. I raised my head and asked him timidly, "Have you ever tried a one-night stand, Mr. Chandler?" Adrien looked sane and unimpressed. He seemed to be thinking about something. "You're drunk. I'm asking Ethan to take you home." I clung to him eagerly, muttering, "We broke up." He raised his eyebrows and took a casual glance at me. Then I heard him say, "I have a meeting at 8:30. So finish it before 8. I stared at him in confusion. In a cold tone, Adrien said, "We have only 3 hours left. You're not waiting for me to take the first step, are you?" 6. Adrien loved drinking tea. He was very knowledgeable about tea art. He slowly took out the tea from the tea caddy with his long, slender finger and put it in the teapot. The tea then all fell into the water. Adrien watered the tea leaves with warm water, and when the leaves absorbed enough water and became very bright in color, he immediately poured boiling water into the pot. Perhaps the water was too hot, which made the leaves keep rolling up and down. After a few minutes, the aroma of tea slowly came out. "Do you want another sip?" Adrien said while rubbing my palm. I was so tired that I couldn't even keep my eyes open, so I complained in a flirtatious voice, "I'm a little bit tired." Adrien ignored my mutter, grabbed my chin, and forced me to look up at him. "I'll help you with it." "Good girl." He sounded irresistible. I could see a thirst in his eyes, and it was so overwhelming that made me feel like I couldn't breathe. So I whispered to him, begging for mercy. However, Adrien murmured in my ear in his tempting voice, "What a spoiled girl.